Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first childminder specific webinar. So we're going to speak to you this evening about the childminder offer that we've created this year for our student teachers. So with me, we've got Kirsty Morley, who's a personal tutor, Vicky Haslam, another personal tutor, and Kathy Mather, who's also a personal tutor. My name's Maxine, and I'm the regional lead tutor for the Northwest with responsibility for the childminders that we have on programme. We just want to ask that you don't ask all your questions as we're going through. We're going to go through the PowerPoint presentation and hopefully that will answer the majority of your questions. And then at the end, we will have a quick question and answer session. I'm just going to ask one of the others that's joining me to put my email address into the chat box. So if you've got any questions that are really specific to your own setting and your own circumstances, you can email me directly and we can look at those on an individual basis if needed. So I will pass you over to Kirsty because she's going to start the presentation.
Thank you, Maxine, and welcome everybody. So the first slide we've got. So just so that you're aware, the qualification that you receive, it's not qualified teacher status, it's not QTS. And you would need QTS if you wanted to teach your reception classes in maintained schools. But the early years teacher status that you'll get will mean that you'll become an expert in teaching children across the birth to 5 years age range. And you will be able to teach in reception classes in academies and free schools. And you train for free with the DFE funding because there's no course fees. You'll gain up-to-date subject knowledge on best practice in the early years, and you'll develop your leadership skills to support successful team development in the setting, and also increase and improve support for children and families in the early years. Thanks, Maxine. So why train with us? There's lots of really good reasons. We are the largest EYITT provider, having trained and assessed many candidates for early years professional status and subsequently EYITT since 2007. And we have created now a childminder offer to support your individual journey through the course. Numbers of student teachers are increasing each year based on extremely positive feedback. We've got 98% of students saying that they would recommend the programme to a friend or colleague. And we offer a successful blended programme with face-to-face and e-learning components, and that helps to manage study and learning for you. And we offer an excellent personalised approach with each student teacher being supported by a personal tutor and also mentors. Thanks, Maxine. So we recognise that childminders provide a unique service to the children and families they work with, and we really celebrate this. To support that, the offer for our childminder student teachers is bespoke to their individual needs and their setting, whilst also ensuring they are fulfilling the requirements of the EYITT course. And where necessary, reasonable adjustments will be made during the programme. We've had childminders completing the EYITT programme in our past cohorts, and now with the development of the childminder group made up of personal tutors and facilitators who have all had childminding experience or have worked with students that are childminders. And their role, and there's 4 of us on the call this evening, so our role really is to look at specially tailoring the programme for childminders and to celebrate the amazing work that you all do. So what does this look like? So to ensure that you as childminders have a tailored approach, before your interview, there'll be a telephone or Teams call regarding any questions such as funding for the programme. Once on programme, there's another call where we will work together with you to plan out the journey for your programme from start to finish. And this will include a discussion around individual placement requirements. We'll also support you to find a suitable mentor if required, who can help to develop your teaching practice and knowledge across the different age groups. Thanks, Maxine. We also have monthly training support meetings for our childminders, and that's a really good networking opportunity for you to meet with other childminders. And we do it at an appropriate time of day to support with aspects of the programme, such as the leadership action plan and working in partnership with colleagues and other professionals. You'll have weekly check-ins from your personal tutor at a time that's appropriate for you with your business, and also in a chosen format. So if you prefer text or email or a phone call, they will do either of those for you. And we've set up a communication log to record conversations between childminders and placement to support with planning and leadership evidence. And we hope what's coming across in the slides is that we really want to ensure that you feel really supported every step of the way. Thanks, Nancy. So you'll complete what we call learning sequences, both in your home and on a placement. And we'll support you with completing things like the leadership action plan through our monthly childminder meetings, and we'll support you by doing term reviews, which is a conversation with your personal tutor. And we also offer support for the mentors involved with you as well. Thanks, Maxine. We're really excited to have, it's called a Padlet, which has lots of resources on it that are being added to regularly, and we encourage you as student teachers to add to this too. The Padlet also includes a wellbeing section and enables us to celebrate the early years context of childminders and to share good practice as a group. Thank you. So what is the EYITT programme like? So it has face-to-face or virtual sessions for training days, an online platform that we call Mosaic for uploading your work and assessment and for accessing modules, and a whole other range of supportive resources that we upload. You'll get a dedicated personal tutor to support you throughout the programme, a setting and placement mentor to support and observe you each week, and that individual plan to help you make progress and to offer challenge for you to support you to achieve the status. Thank you. So this is where I hand over to Maxine. So thank you for listening to me so far.
I hope you all kind of understand. We are really excited to be putting this offer together for childminders. As far as we are aware, we are kind of one of the only providers out there that is doing something like this that's specific to you. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of our program structure, just so you can kind of see how it all works. So you'll start off with like an induction phase where you have some pre-induction training. You'll complete some documents like an initial needs analysis and subject knowledge audit. You'll be talked through how you use the different types of online platforms that we use, and you'll have to do a BKSB maths diagnostic assessment just to check exactly where you're up to with your math skills, and that's part of the DFE criteria. So term one, kind of, you would have 4 training days. So as we've said, those are either face-to-face in a local venue, or they will be virtual. We do think that most people prefer the face-to-face training days because that gives them that time to network with other people and have those informal discussions at lunches and break times. You will set your initial term 1 targets with your personal tutor and your mentor to really give you that good start to the programme with what needs to be achieved, and also the targets for things for you to develop your practice and improve upon. During your first term, you will complete 2 learning sequences. Just a typing error on here, we've moved it around to do a 2, a 2 and a 1 sequence, and that's from feedback from previous students that have felt they had more time in term 1 to get on top of some of the tasks that were needed. And then at the end of every single term, you have a review and target setting session with your personal tutor and your mentor, and that helps you to then plan what you will do over the next term. And that goes on from term 1, 2, and then 3. And then right at the end, you'll have a final conversation with your personal tutor to make sure that everything is there on your mosaic, ready for your final discussion around your day 9. We call it a day 9 at the minute. but that's where you will do your discussion with another personal tutor or regional lead, and you will celebrate your successes that you've had throughout the year. And then that leads to the award of the early years teacher status. You'll also get roughly half-termly visits from your personal tutor, and obviously you should be having those weekly mentor meetings and observations from your own in-setting mentors. We very much base our programme around this curriculum wheel where the child is at the centre. Um, and then all the different themes are led around that. So we've got things like the continuum of learning, which is how children will progress from the EYFS into year 1 and onwards. We do lots of work on safeguarding, adaptive education, how you can put your theory into practice, leading and supporting of others, child development, and the EYFS. And that gives our 5 themes that you can see there on the edge of the wheel. So our curriculum is broad and balanced. It's very relevant to what's happening in early years at the moment. It's forward thinking. We have key themes for initial teacher training, and we have a big focus on safeguarding, leadership and well-being, and that is all threaded throughout each training day that you will attend. We have 8 training days and then a final interview. So as I said, the training days are either face-to-face in the local venue or they are virtually online. Your final interview is always a virtual one, and each training day has a different theme. So day 1 is the effective early years teacher. Day 2 is about adapting teaching for the unique child. We've got day 3 starting strong, day 4 foundations for success. 5 is leading and supporting in the early years. Obviously, day 6, promoting that equality, diversity, inclusion. Day 7 is about unlocking potential and widening opportunities. And day 8 is about the reflective early years teacher. So we cover all those different themes throughout the programme to support you with the work you need to create. The role of the setting and placement mentor. So we can support with this, and we can offer you help you to find a suitable mentor, because we do know for some childminders that can be a particular area where you struggle. So we've got lots of experience of trying to find suitable mentors and different scenarios that will work to enable you to complete our programme. See, the mentors are usually expert colleagues who will help you to develop your skills and knowledge as an early years teacher. So obviously, when we say expert colleagues, that's not always somebody that works with you every single day in your setting. It might be another childminder that has their own business that will mentor you, or other people that you do know that have got lots of early years experience. Mentors will also share their experience, expertise, and skills on the different aspects of the curriculum with you, and they will observe you each week and give you detailed feedback. And you'll have those reflective discussions where you can talk about what went well and how you could maybe have improved things as you were doing your activities. They will also help you to set sharp targets to help you progress and master the early years teaching standards. So ITT and the requirements for placements. So throughout our programme, every student must cover the age groups from 0 to 5 as a minimum, and that's the DFE requirement, and that's what we've got built into our programme. Placements will depend on the ages of children that you have on roll, and that's why we do those individual personalised calls with you right at the beginning to look at what you have in your setting and how we can support you to achieve the age ranges. All students must complete a placement of at least 25 days, and that's in a second separate setting to your own. Placements need to offer a variety and depth of experience to enable student teachers to meet all the early years teaching standards. Placements are completed, as I said, in at least 2 different settings, and they must be rated good or outstanding with Ofsted. Your childminding setting is classed as setting number 1, so you would go off to another setting as your second placement. Some students may need more, they may need 3 settings. Just a quick example, if you didn't have babies in your childminding setting, you would need to have maybe a school-based setting placement, and then you would need to do a baby placement as well to enable you to get that experience and knowledge of that age group. Placements must be in a setting which delivers the EYFS or works to national curriculum expectations. How is early years teacher status assessed with us? So it's an ongoing assessment which includes observations, a reflective account, sequences of work and termly targets. You will have, it would be, my voice is going. You would need to demonstrate your mastery of the EYITT curriculum, and you'll be able to do that through all the tasks that we ask you to do while you're on the programme with us. There's a summative judgment that each student teacher meets the teacher standard. So that's what we do right at the end of the programme. We look at the teacher standards and make that judgment right at the end that have you achieved them. There is what we call exam board and recommendation for the award of early years teacher status. So that's how we assess that as we move through your journey with us. What's the entry criteria to get onto early years teacher status? So you must have a degree or an equivalent level 6 qualification. You must have your GCSE in English, Maths and Science, and these must be at grade C, grade 4 or above, or a recognised equivalent. You must have the right to study and work in the UK for the duration of the course that you are doing. You must have competence in spoken and written English, a satisfactory DBS check, and for all students, they must meet the health and physical capacity to teach requirements. And we do that through asking you to complete a health assessment. Equivalency tests. So if you do not hold the required GCSEs in Maths, English or Science at those grades 4 or grade C, then you can complete equivalency testing. And we've just put there that the GCSE Science equivalency test can either be for biology or combined. We usually will accept these equivalency tests from astarequivalency.co.uk or any other equivalency provider. So obviously, if you know that you've not got those GCSEs right now and you really do want to do our programme, then you can get those equivalency tests booked in now to help you have a smooth start to the programme. Maths for free. So if you do not have your maths equivalency test, that can be sat with us through the BKSB platform that we use. And that will enable you to meet the ITT requirements to enable you to access our programme. This may not always be available with another provider, but we do the maths equivalency testing for free if you join our programme. So what are the childminders saying about us that we've got on programme at the minute or have previously been with us? We've got, I hugely appreciate your help and support. I can already feel your positive input into my own sense of well-being and self-esteem. I am loving this course. Thank you for everything you are doing in guiding me through. My experience of the course so far and training days has been amazing, and the Padlets are also fantastic. So we did show you that example of a Padlet that we've created specifically for childminders, but we also have them that link to each of the training days that we do to help you develop your subject knowledge. What else are they saying? It's a bit like having my very own fairy godmother. My motivation has no bounds. Over the moon with the Padlets and all your help. It is a privilege to complete this course, and I have chosen BPN because I feel supported and encouraged. So I hope you can see from those comments and feedback that we've received from current students that we really are here to support you and make that journey as smooth as possible for you, where you really enjoy your time with us. We can help you to take that next step. So have a look at our website, check out our new Childminder website page that we've created, talk to our team on the email of eyitt@bestpracticenet.co.uk and take a look at what we're doing on X and our feedback pages. I hope that's answered a lot of your questions. And obviously we will be able to take some questions from people at the minute now. So obviously if you want to, Kathy and Vicky, give us some overviews of any questions that you've got.
I think the only one that came through was that somebody had missed the slides about placement days because they'd been kicked out of the Zoom. So I think it was just to clarify about placement days, how many days, and are they set days?
So with regards to the placement days, so you need to do a minimum of 25 days in a second setting. That's very much dependent on your own setting. So say, for example, in your own setting, you didn't have children of a particular age range, then you may need to do an additional setting to cover that. So if you, as I gave the example, I think earlier, if you don't have babies at the moment in your childminding setting, you would need to do a 10-day baby placement to gain that experience, as well as the 25 days in a school setting. We the On our program, we tend to do placements in blocks, and they are usually no less than 2 weeks at a time. Now, we fully understand that for childminders, that is a very difficult situation with you running your own business, and obviously you are responsible for the children and the parents, and obviously that would impact on your business. So what we can do is that individual call that you have with me right at the beginning, we can look at the placement scenarios and see what we can create for you and what is actually feasible. What we have to always keep in the back of our mind is what the DFE criteria is, but we can look at making some reasonable adjustments for you.
We've got a few more questions. One of them, is it a rolling start or September only?
So we definitely always at the moment have an autumn cohort. So our next autumn cohort will be in September 2026. We're currently awaiting information from the DFE to see if we can do a January, February start cohort this year, and hopefully we will know that soon. So obviously it would be whichever of the two cohorts was most suitable for you.
We've got, does your mentor need EYITT or QTS?
No. So your mentor needs to either hold a similar qualification to you, but obviously not all childminders have already got the degree, or we ask that they're experienced in the early years field so that they can have what we call those critical conversations with you and those really reflective discussions. So we want them to be a critical friend where they will look at your observations, when they're observing you and your practice, and talk to you about how might you have made improvements to that if you were to do it again, and those kinds of things. So obviously, it doesn't have to be someone that's got qualified teacher status or a degree. And again, that's something we can look at with you on an individual basis.
Another question, somebody asking, can we take children that are on our register to our placements?
No. So that's because you'd be going into a school placement to be a teacher in the school placement for those 25 days. So we couldn't allow you to take your own childminding children in. And that's why we have that initial discussion with you where we look at what is a feasible way of working that. So what we've got at the minute, we've got some childminders that only work 3 or 4 days a week. So we're looking at how we can accommodate their placements to fit in with what the working pattern is. Some childminders we've got at present have also factored it in right from the beginning. So they're taking some block weeks out. So they're doing 1 week going back to their own setting and working with their own children, and then going back on placement for another week. So again, it's what works with you and your parents. And obviously we can look at those adjustments to our normal program for you once we know, your own circumstances. So you do have that initial call with myself and maybe your personal tutor to enable us to see what you can achieve and what we need to try and adjust for you.
We've got, if we have children after school aged 5, would that be considered okay?
Does anybody else want to answer that that's on our, like Kirsty or Kathy? You already know the answer. I've done a lot of talking here.
I think because the whole programme focuses on 0 to 5, they are the age group that you need to be working with, and reception age children when you go into the school placement. So if you only have before and after school children, then it doesn't quite meet the criteria for the 0 to 5. So you would need lots of placements to be able to cover the younger age groups.
Thank you. Anything else there?
It says, is it a recognised DFE qualification? Yes, it is. At the very end of the course, our recommendations go to the DFE. for you to be given your early years teacher status, so it is a recognised qualification. We've then got, rather than a block, would 1 day a week be okay? And I think you've answered that, Maxine, haven't you, that you would chat to potential students on a one-to-one basis about their individual situations.
Somebody else querying the actual starting date, and it will be September 2026, but it's a possibility we may have another cohort in February, but we are waiting to hear from the DFE, so we don't know as yet.
I would say keep an eye on our website, you know, because if we do get that like January, February cohort, it will be announced on there that applications are open for that. So obviously, you know, make your application if you do want to do the programme, and we can always ask if you want to do that particular route at that time.
We've then got, what if we have both early years and after school?
So you would only cover in your sequences of work the children that come under the birth to 5. You wouldn't use your after school children for any of your sequences of work, because they come under the school age children for the phonics and the maths that you will do. Whereas when they're in your setting just for after school, that's not part of the early years teacher status.
We've got another one about qualifications. It's they have a diploma of childcare and different certificates and want to attend, and lots of experience. I think it's the they would need to email the EYITT email, wouldn't they, to talk about qualifications and whether they're the relevant. I'll pop EYITT's email into the chat again as well.
Yeah, so if you're unsure about any of your particular qualifications, if it's not, because we do have students from abroad, and if you're wanting to know if that's equivalent to what we require from the DFE, then obviously if you email that EYITT email address, they can give you further help and guidance with that.
There's another question.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Kathy. It's asking, yeah, good question, asking about, do you need to have the equivalency test before you apply or before the start date? But we can, you can do those as long as it's before the start date. Isn't that right, Maxine? So if you, again, we can give you some individualized help with that on whichever equivalency test that you needed, but before you start the program. Just looking if there's another one. And a question from Rachel. I've got a placement at a private day nursery 0 to 4. Would I still need a school placement? Yes, because the placement, there'll be a reception class placement that you do, and the school placement is 25 days. So you have experience with babies, toddlers, preschool and reception age children, and we also do a send sequence as well.
Can I just ask that, was it Rachel, did you say? So Rachel, do you actually work as a childminder and then you've got yourself a placement in a day nursery for some more experience? Because I'm just wondering if is it like what we call a graduate employment based route, or if Rachel's not a childminder, then maybe it's more the graduate entry route. So I'm just wondering what her circumstances were as to what.
Right, let's see if Rachel's replies.
We've also got one about funding as well. What about funding?
So the DFE pay for you to do the course. That's a free, is a free course with us. Unfortunately, the employer incentive that others get, the childminders quite often don't qualify for that. If you're a sole trader, then obviously you wouldn't. I can't even speak this evening. You wouldn't qualify for the employer incentive unless you were like a limited company and taking a salary from your childminding business in that way. Childminding assistants that work for childminders, if they are getting a salary from the childminder, then the childminder might then qualify to receive the employer funding. But again, that's what we look at those on individual circumstances.
We've got another question about placement. Nicola's asking if she doesn't work a Friday, can she do her placement on a Friday for 25 days? And again, that's something that you would discuss on an individual basis, Maxine, isn't it, with potential students before they start the course. So that's definitely something you can chat to Maxine about.
Yeah.
And Rachel's replied to your question, Maxine. She is a childminder. That's great, Rachel. She's put, I visit a day nursery as a forest school leader.
So if she wanted to do kind of some of that as part of her experience and maybe do one of her sequences in something like the forest school, that would be something we could look at doing as part of the programme for the younger age range. But you would definitely need to go into the school for the reception, because you need to be teaching a phonics scheme for our phonics learning sequence, and you need to be teaching reception maths. Anybody else got any questions they would like to ask?
One about babies. How many days do you need a baby, as we only have one at a time, so it's not continual?
So you would I think I need to give a little bit of an explanation about how our program works with the learning sequences. So during the journey that you will go on throughout our program, you will complete 5 learning sequences. So one is on babies, one is on toddlers. Maths is a split sequence. You do half of it with preschool age children and half of it when you go on your reception placement. You would then do a phonics sequence and a SEND sequence. Now, out of the babies, toddlers, and SEND sequence, 2 of those sequences can be on an individual child. So then the third sequence would need to be on a group of children. So if you do have only one baby that attends once or twice a week, it's absolutely fine to be able to do a learning sequence with them. A learning sequence, I'll give you a little bit brief overview of that. You would select the child or children you want to work with. You do your initial assessment of where they currently are at in their development, and then you would look at what do I know about babies and what do I know about that particular area of learning, and that's how you would start to do your research. And we have a research document that you would complete. You would then use those initial assessments to plan your first, what we call a teaching and learning plan. And you would plan an activity as to how to develop that child to try and work towards their next steps. Once you've delivered that, you then evaluate it, and then that will inform your second teaching and learning plan. And then you do 5 of those, and that's usually over a number of weeks so that you can demonstrate the progress the child has made. Then once you've done the 5 teaching and learning plans, you do your final assessment to demonstrate the progress the child's made. If they haven't made any progress, we would be expecting you to be able to give some reasons as to why you think they've not been able to make that progress. So you'd be looking at, is there things like additional learning needs, etc., or why haven't they achieved that? You then complete a review of the sequence, and you would put in any supplementary evidence as well into there. So that would form a learning sequence. And like I said, we do 5 different ones with the different age groups.
Thank you, Maxine. That was actually the next question, which you've covered in detail. So we've also got somebody asking if childminders who are not registered as a limited company, can they be refused on the course? No, all childminders can apply. It's just to do with the incentive funding. So even if you are not a limited company, of course you can apply and we would welcome you.
Yeah, I think it's what happens is the employers are given an incentive to have their staff onto our program, and it's to support with things like them needing to go out on those blocks of placements. So they qualify for funding from the DFE to support them with getting extra staff in to cover those placement blocks and training days and things like that. And that's why we understand that it is extremely difficult for childminders to be able to do that with their business circumstances, and that's why we can look at making those reasonable adjustments around placements and things like that to help and support with the fact you know you would be losing out on money if you had to suddenly close your setting for 5 weeks. So we look at what ways we can support you to achieve the criteria set by the DfE based on your individual circumstances. We hope one day the DfE will give some funding to childminders. That's our aim, is to try and get plenty of you onto our programme, and then we've got a case to go to the DfE and say, look how many people that are childminders we've got, what can we do to help and support them through our programme? But we're not there with that yet.
We've got Lisa asking, are we classing a baby as under 1 year old? We say babies 1 to 2 and then toddlers 2 to 3. And then following that question on babies, can the baby bit be done at any time? Yes, you can do the age range in any sequence, as long as by the end of the course you've done all the learning sequence that Maxine described. Because you've put, it's just difficult for us due to ratios, so can't guarantee the baby will be the correct age at that time. And what Maxine will do when you have that initial call with somebody, they'll go through what age groups you have in your setting at that time, and any that you know might be starting in a few months' time, and we really break down those age groups for you to see what you'll have. You might start the course but know that you've got a baby starting in a couple of months, and we would work that out for you and look at the programme as a whole and kind of map it out for you.
We've got a few in the chat box. There was one that asked for some, because they've missed some of the webinar due to being still at work. Oh yes, sorry Freya, you've answered that. I can see you've answered it now. It says, can assistants do the course as well? So can the childminding assistants do the course?
Yeah, that, as I said, if the assistant, if they're self-employed, they can just apply, you know, as an assistant, but they wouldn't qualify for any employer incentive unless they were employed by the childminder. If they were receiving a wage from the childminder, then the childminder might be able to qualify for the employer incentive, because it will all be done through like the PAYE and things like that. But again, we'd need to look at the individual circumstances of how the childminder's business is set up to see whether it would be qualify for the funding. Anything else anyone's wanting to ask us?
There's one more about the equivalency test. Dawn got cut off. Oh, glad you're back on, Dawn. She doesn't have a science GCSE. Can you do the equivalency test after I apply? Yes, you can do that. Yeah, and we would support you to know what to do with that.
Yeah, so you can apply as soon as, I think the applications are already open for autumn 26, and if they're not, it will be very, very soon. So if you know you've got an equivalency test that needs doing, then obviously you can get that booked in between now and next September. And then obviously you've got plenty of time to make sure you get that equivalency test taken and hopefully pass, and then that will allow you onto the programme. We have to have the equivalency tests kind of done by the time you start the programme, because we have to put you on the DfE register. So if you hadn't passed your equivalency by that time, then we'd have to look at what options are available, maybe to defer you to our next cohort to make sure you've got the right qualifications.
Lauren, I can see that you the audio cut out for you when I was talking about the baby age. So we say 1 to 2 years for a baby. To see if there's any more questions.
Oh, there's one from Claire. I'm the childminder partner at Heart Midland Stronger Practice Hub. We are happy to promote this for you using our channels. Thank you so much, Claire. We really appreciate that. And I see that you're going to email Maxine later. So thank you.
That would be brilliant. We are doing all we can to try and promote this out there to everyone. We've even talked about we'd love our own childminder programs if we want to get enough of you on to be able to work specifically with you. I mean, I'm a regional lead, so I don't actually have any students, but I know Kirsty is working with a few childminders at the minute and she's absolutely loving it. Vicky's been working with Childminders, and myself and Kathy have previously been Childminders. So that's kind of why we are all on this working party, the webinar, because we really want you all to succeed and be able to gain this status.
There's one more question just about maths. How about the maths test to check the knowledge? Will it be the GCSE standard? Yes, it is the GCSE standard that you would do through BKSB.
I did see a comment pop up saying, oh, we are all a great bunch. So I'm like, Childminders are the best.
Absolutely.
I think I've always found, particularly in my local area, a lot of people wanted to kind of gain this status but couldn't due to the criteria, and that's why we've really looked at it and what can we reasonably adjust, because we do want childminders to be able to gain this status. So we are looking at things for you on an individual basis and what we can achieve.
There's one more just to clarify for Nicola. Yes, so you're saying, is it babies 1 to 2 years old? Yes. And then toddlers 2 to 3. Yes, that's right. And then preschool children 3 years, and then your reception children. So yes, Nicola, that's correct.
Any more questions at all, or are we just going to thank everyone for joining us? Is there anything else in that chat?
Nothing else in the chat, is there? Just lots of thank yous.
It's been lovely to engage with everyone, and to answer all your questions. I think there is another one there.
It's about assistant. Can my assistant do the training?
So yes, obviously they would need to meet the entry criteria, which is the degree and the GCSEs and things like that. But if they meet all the entry criteria, then there is no reason why they can't. They've just got to meet the criteria. No more questions? I think if that's it, then we can maybe end the webinar.
Oh, sorry, there is one more. If I'm currently on the last year of a degree and finish in April, May, when should I apply? It finish in April, May 2026, when should I apply?
You could make your application now and you'd be invited to interview once we start with the interviews. And then what would happen is you'd be given what we call a conditional offer, and that would then be subject to you passing that degree and having all the other qualifications that you need.
There's a message, Maxine, from Rachel saying, I'd love to do it, but I can't commit to 25 days term time. And what I think we'll say to you, Rachel, is just have a think about that, and maybe if you want to email Maxine, because you've offered that, haven't you, Maxine?
Yeah.
And we could just delve into your situation a little bit more. We don't want to lose you just yet. Let us have a conversation with you and see if we can make it work for you. Yeah, but is that all right to say, Maxine?
Of course, I'm very passionate about getting childminders onto our programme. So obviously if people have got individual circumstances, then we will look at, because we've got childminders this year that have done all different kinds of things. We've had one lady that she is a term time only childminder, but what she's done is moved one of her, she's taken a week off to do a block placement, but said she'll work the week in the school holidays to cover that week for the parents. So again, we can work with you and have a look at how your setting is set up and what you do and what might be feasible for you during the programme. So certainly send me an email if you've got any individual queries, because I think it's every one of you works slightly differently, different hours, different days, different times of the year. So we wouldn't be able to answer every question on this webinar. I don't think we'd have enough hours to do that, but certainly send me an email and I can give you a personal response, and we can maybe, if we need to, we can do a Teams call or a telephone call to go through your situation.
Just have one around QTS. I'm assuming you're asking if this is QTS. No, this is early years. QTS is something different.
if you were wanting to gain QTS, then have a look on our website, because we certainly do primary initial teacher training, we do secondary initial teacher training. So if it is QTS status that you want, we can help you, but just not on the EYITT programme. But we do have the other programmes out there that might be suitable for you.
Seems to
Nothing
be it.
else? We've done it?
No more questions.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and hopefully we will see you on our next cohort of students.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank
Come
you.
and join us. It's a great course.
We're all lovely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.